Is the United States a rogue state? It's a provocative question that sparks fierce debate around the world. To some, America is a defender of democracy and international order. To others, it's the world's most dangerous rule breaker. Today, we're going to examine both sides of this controversial question. We'll look at what actually defines a rogue state, present the evidence critics use, explore counter-arguments, and see how different countries view American power. Let's dive in. First, what is a rogue state? The term emerged in the 1990s to describe countries that allegedly threaten world peace. According to traditional definitions, rogue states typically violate international law and norms, support or engage in terrorism, pursue weapons of mass destruction, suppress human rights domestically, act unilaterally without regard for international consensus. Countries like North Korea, Iran, and Saddam Hussein's Iraq have been labeled rogue states by the US and its allies. But here's where it gets interesting. Some scholars and nations argue these same criteria could apply to major powers, including the United States itself. So let's examine the case on both sides. Critics who apply this label to the USA point to several patterns: disregard for international law. The U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 proceeded without UN Security Council authorization. The UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan later called it illegal. More recently, critics point to decades of drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia, often without those governments' consent. Detachment from global treaties. The United States has refused to join the International Criminal Court, withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement under Trump, though Biden rejoined, pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, and never ratified treaties like the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which every other UN nation has signed. Military interventions. Since World War II, the U.S. has conducted military operations in dozens of countries. Critics cite Vietnam, the overthrow of democratic governments in Iran in 1953 and Chile in 1973, and the destabilization of Libya in 2011, which created lasting chaos. Guantanamo Bay. The detention facility has held prisoners for over 2 decades without trial, with documented torture during the Bush administration. The UN and human rights organizations have repeatedly called for its closure. Civilian casualties. From the estimated 300,000 Iraqi civilians killed during the Iraq War to recent controversies like the 2021 Kabul drone strike that killed 10 civilians, including 7 children, critics argue the U.S. shows insufficient regard for human life in conflict zones. This perspective is common in parts of the Global South, the Middle East, and even among some European intellectuals. Now let's hear the other side. Defenders of U.S. foreign policy argue democratic accountability. Unlike actual rogue states, the U.S. has free elections, independent courts, and a free press that investigates and criticizes government actions. The torture at Abu Ghraib was exposed by American journalists, and officials were prosecuted. Try that in North Korea. Defensive intentions. Supporters argue most interventions aim to counter genuinely dangerous regimes. Saddam Hussein did use chemical weapons against the Kurds. The Taliban did harbor al-Qaeda after 9/11. The U.S. didn't annex Iraq or Afghanistan despite occupying them. Global order provider. The U.S. maintains freedom of navigation in international waters, provides the world's reserve currency, and leads NATO, which has prevented major wars in Europe for 75 years. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, it was the U.S. leading the democratic world's response. Humanitarian interventions. U.S. military power stopped ethnic cleansing in Bosnia and Kosovo in the 1990s. American aid programs like PEPFAR have saved millions of lives from HIV/AIDS in Africa. Alliance system. Unlike rogue states, the U.S. has formal alliances with dozens of democracies in Europe, Asia, and beyond. These allies voluntarily cooperate with American leadership, suggesting it's not simply a rogue actor. The distinction, defenders say, is between a flawed superpower trying to maintain international order and actual rogue states pursuing conquest, terrorism, or genocide. So how does the world actually view America? It's complex. U.S. allies, UK, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Australia, generally see America as an imperfect but essential security partner. They criticize specific policies but fundamentally rely on U.S. military protection. Latin America. Mixed views, shaped by history. Countries remember U.S.-backed coups and interventions during the Cold War. Many are suspicious of American power while depending on trade and remittances. Middle East. Deeply divided. Gulf monarchies, like Saudi Arabia and UAE, partner closely with the US. But on the street level, polling shows significant anti-American sentiment due to the Iraq War, drone strikes, and unconditional support for Israel. China and Russia officially portray the US as a declining hegemon that destabilizes regions to maintain dominance. They position themselves as alternatives to American-led order, global South nations. Many express frustration at perceived double standards. Why is Russia condemned for invading Ukraine while the US faced limited consequences for Iraq? They often seek to balance relationships with both the US and China. European public opinion. Pew Research shows European views of the US swing dramatically based on who's president, from 14% favorability in Germany under Bush to 78% under Obama, then down again under Trump. So, is the USA a rogue state? The answer depends on your perspective and your definition. If rogue state means defying international norms and using military force unilaterally, there's evidence to support the claim. If it means a fundamentally lawless regime, threatening world peace, with no accountability, the comparison falls apart. Perhaps the real question isn't about labels, but about power and accountability. How should the world's most powerful nation behave? What checks exist on that power? And who gets to decide which countries are rogues and which are legitimate actors? These are questions without easy answers. What matters is that we keep asking them, examining the evidence, and holding all powerful nations accountable to international law and human rights. What do you think? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if you found this analysis valuable, subscribe for more balanced takes on controversial global issues.